Hi, I'm Katie Ziskind. I'm the owner of Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching. You can learn more about working with myself and my team by heading over to wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. Today's video is part 2 of our cross-dressing video that we just listened to. So cross-dressing is when a man identifies as having a feminine side or having a sense of feminine gender expression. So if you dress up in women's clothing, if you wear nylon stockings, high heels, put lipstick on, blush, makeup, wear women's wigs, fake eyelashes, love glitter, there is nothing wrong with you. It just means that you may be bigender. You have a feminine side and you have a masculine side. So cross-dressing is a form of gender expression. It has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. Your sexual orientation, whether you identify as straight, gay, bisexual, pansexual, demisexual, etc., is a completely different spectrum of who you are as a human. So cross-dressing is a form of gender expression, meaning you are expressing your gender in a more feminine way at certain times. When you feel the urge to do so, when it makes you happy, when it brings you a sense of pleasure. And it's not a fetish, it's not something we need to pathologize, and it does not mean you're broken. It means that you have a feminine side, a softer side, and you may also identify as being more traditionally masculine at other times. But when you're dressing up in female clothing, you're expressing yourself. You feel beautiful, you feel gorgeous, and just because you cross-dress, it doesn't mean you're any less deserving of love or respect. You are worthy of love and respect just as you are. And there are millions of men who enjoy cross-dressing, so you're not alone. However, our society, culture, and strict religions tell us that cross-dressing is bad, sinful, taboo, or dirty. And these are some of the aspects and perspectives that lead to internalized shame, rejection, self-blame, self-hatred, and guilt. So if you're here listening to this video, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing you have to change or fix, and you don't have to suppress your cross-dressing side to fit in. A lot of times we fear being ostracized, or we have to sacrifice our sense of belonging. Or if you are married, your wife may be threatening divorce because she found out that you now cross-dress after you've been keeping it a secret for many years. So cross-dressing is often kept in secret for decades. You may be in a marriage of multiple decades and have hidden this from your wife for many years. And it just because you cross-dress, you can still be very much attracted to your wife. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're gay, but your wife may not actually have the proper education on sexuality and gender expression and the difference between the two, because sexual orientation is separate from gender expression. You may also be dealing with feelings of shame and guilt. You may fear rejection. Now that your wife has found out that you cross-dress, you might be afraid that she's going to abandon you or file for divorce or dislike you or fall out of love with you because you have this feminine side. So a lot of couples silently suffer because of inaccurate or misinformation from a religious upbringing around gender roles. And they often don't have the tools to talk about it. So at Wisdom Within Counseling, my team and I give you a safe space to be yourself, to be who you really are, to express your feminine side, to acknowledge that you're a creative human being and that you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you for enjoying the feeling of women's stockings or nylon stockings or silk on your skin or the texture of certain fabrics that are more associated with female clothing. A lot of times in a marriage, we end up in a very difficult situation because there's no safe space to talk about cross-dressing. So at Wisdom Within Counseling, we help you come out of hiding. We help you in the coming out process. We help you talk about emotions like shame, betrayal, secrecy, confusion. Your wife, if she's found out that you've been cross-dressing for decades, may have some internalized insecurities herself. She might think, am I attractive to him? Does he find me attractive? She might think, am I enough? Right? Am I good enough? Am I sexy enough? Am I, enough? And she may develop a sense of self-consciousness. And she may also wonder, why didn't you tell me sooner? there may be like more betrayal around it being a secret that's been kept. And that's a normal, valid feeling. And you guys both may need help talking about your sex life, because a lot of times couples don't have a safe place to talk about sex, and there's often sexual challenges going on. And so we can talk about what this means for your sex life and how to build an erotic, playful, pleasurable sex life together moving forward. I give you a sex positive space in couples counseling to talk about sexual needs, expectations, fantasies, desires, boundaries. And a lot of times we don't understand female sexual arousal very well. There's a lot of pressure for men to perform. There is so much pressure for men to perform a certain way sexually. And so that can lead to a sexual standoff or sexual avoidance, or feeling sexually inadequate. And so all of these things just get buried and stuffed away and never talked about. So I give you a safe place to process all of those. So we also have to look at how religion, a conservative upbringing, or views or messages around strict gender roles adds layers and layers of shame, guilt, and anxiety. So we process those aspects as well. And we look at misinformation or misconceptions that society and religion have handed us. So cross-dressing for someone may not mean, it doesn't mean that they're transgender. Someone who's transgender wants to transition genders, may want bottom surgery or top surgery or gender reassignment surgery or want to take hormones. Someone who cross-dresses may have no interest in transitioning genders. Cross-dressing is a separate aspect under the umbrella of gender expression. When someone identifies as transgender, that's under the umbrella of gender identity. And so when someone cross-dresses, it's more of them deeply enjoying the feeling of female clothing on their skin, enjoying being a beautiful woman, putting on a wig, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gay. It does not necessarily mean that this man wants to transition and live life 100% as a woman. So we kind of make those, we talk about those boundaries and make those differentiations pretty clear in both individual and couples counseling. We also look at how, in general, shame and guilt causes secret keeping. So a lot of times we keep a secret because we don't feel safe to be who we are. There's so much fear of rejection and abandonment and loss of the life that we've created, that creates emotional distance and sexual disconnection. But the secrecy coming out is actually a really good thing. We create emotional vulnerability, and emotional vulnerability is a precursor to having a beautiful, pleasurable, healthy sex life. So being able to be yourself is a really, really important aspect of sexual pleasure. So in therapy at Wisdom Within Counseling, we actually create therapeutic goals. So one of those goals for many couples where the male, like you, may be cross-dressing, is to help you feel heard. So a lot of times there is this question that men ask me of like, should I stop cross-dressing? How do I stop this? How do I suppress this side of myself? And I want you to know that you don't have to suppress cross-dressing. There is a safe place, a safe time, a schedule that can be created in your marriage for you to cross-dress. Some wives, they want to be a part of it. They want to pick out your clothes. They want to dress you up. They want to be a part of that. Especially if there's an erotic element, they may want to be a part of that. Some wives are just like, hey, I don't mind that you do this, right? This is through weeks and weeks of counseling, but they're like, I don't mind that you do this. This is a cool part of who you are, but I don't necessarily need to be home when you do this. Or I don't mind, I'll go grocery shopping and, you can have the house to yourself. And so we look at like what the needs are around cross-dressing. And some wives are like, hey, like, this is so cool. This is an awesome part of who you are. Let's get you dressed up and let's go to a drag brunch and let's create an LGBTQIA plus affirming community and both kind of dive in. So this is about you feeling heard, not shamed. And also as a therapist, my team and I, we act as kind of a bridge for positive affect, a bridge for emotional attunement, a bridge for emotional receptivity and emotional accessibility. And so we're not refereeing. We're not kind of coming in and saying, oh, this is wrong or this is right. We're allowing you and your partner to have a more vulnerable, emotionally intimate, and emotionally intelligent conversation than you would be able to have on your own outside of sessions. And so another really important goal, kind of offshooting from that, is emotional intimacy. Our society grooms emotional intimacy out of us. So when you're a young boy and you've been cross-dressing since you were in preschool or kindergarten, and you've been trying on your mom's nylon stockings, or loving the feeling of nylon stockings on your skin, and putting on high heels, and the smell of blush, the smell of foundation and makeup on your skin. You love wearing lipstick, you love fake eyelashes and mascara, and you love dressing up in feminine clothing, bras and dresses, and you just enjoy that so much. And you've been doing that from a young age. A lot of times, men have a dad that physically abuses them and like hits them for dressing up, or slaps them, or punishes them. And you were punished as a young child for emotional and gender expression. And so you kind of hid this side of you, which as a result prevents emotional intimacy in your marriage. And so part of this coming out process with your wife and her learning about your cross-dressing and feminine side is rebuilding emotional intimacy. And so emotional intimacy means creating genuine love. It means being able to talk vulnerably. And as a child, you were not allowed to have needs. You were not allowed to be yourself. You were not allowed to do anything but walk on eggshells around your dad's explosive anger and rage. You were not allowed to say, I need help, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling hurt. You had to be perfect, and there was pressure to perform. And so now here you are in your marriage, and you identify as a cross-dresser, and that's actually really healthy. It's a form of healthy self-expression. So part of rebuilding emotional intimacy is saying to your wife and to me as your therapist, I feel scared. I'm really scared of my wife abandoning me because she sees who I am. I'm really scared of the rejection all over again. The rejection I faced from my family of origin. The rejection I faced from my dad when he hit me, when he found me wearing nylon stockings. I am so afraid of feeling more shame. Or I currently feel a great deal of shame coming out, and her anger and her rage and her confusion. And saying what you feel is a form of emotional intimacy. And we look at exploring unmet emotional needs on both sides. So your wife may have some feelings from your marriage that's lasted many decades, and she's never talked with you about these feelings, related to cross-dressing or unrelated to cross-dressing. Maybe she wants to talk about sex. Maybe she wants to talk about 25 years ago when she had your first child and she had postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety and she felt neglected and abandoned then. And those conversations have never been had. And now here you are. And now can be an opportunity in couples therapy to talk about any lingering resentments, any feelings that she may have. And that builds emotional intimacy as one of our main goals. Another goal is understanding the role of cross-dressing and how this pertains to gender expression. So there might be stress relief, it might be soothing, it might be a form of sexuality and eroticism and erotic play. It may fall under, just for you, like feeling more feminine and just really enjoying this softer side, this more gentle side of who you are. And there may also be a kind of a sense of comfort, a true sense of comfort that comes from cross-dressing. It's always been there for you. It's always been something that you can do. And these are all really important things to communicate with your therapist, such as myself, or also with your wife in couples counseling. And therapy can be a great place to talk about what the facts are versus what the fears are and process those. Another piece when it comes to goals around cross-dressing and cross-dressing therapy is understanding what's safe about it. Where can we do it safely? What can we do safely? So like maybe you're a man that, let's just say you have like a middle schooler, right? A middle school age child, and you're a man that loves cross-dressing, and you and your wife talk about, okay, well, you can cross-dress while our child's at school. We're not ready to have this coming out process happen yet with our child or with family. And so, maybe you're cross-dressing and your child has a fever and needs to be picked up sick from school. And you're like, oh no, I'm dressed up. Like, we talk about boundaries of like, hey, maybe it's okay. And you call the school and you're like, hey, like, just so you know, I'm going to pick up our child. It's me, like, but I am dressed up in female clothing. That could be a huge fear. That could be a huge, like, unperceived aspect of things. You may want to make sure that your child's school is LGBTQIA plus affirming in case this does happen. And we may want to talk about these things kind of in anticipation of them happening and how we create boundaries. You may want to tell the school, like, hey, gender expression is something that happens in our family. We're an LGBTQIA plus affirming family. Like, I may pick up our child dressed up as a woman. Like, I just want you to know that's okay. And that it's me, right? And so we have to really think about where these things can take place. And also a lot of times children are the most accepting members of the family. Like, a dad who cross-dresses, a lot of my male clients who cross-dress are so afraid that their child will reject them. But it's really the children that are like, oh, wow, this is so cool. This is awesome. Like, so I think that it's really healthy. We have a lot of fears around coming out, but it's actually really healthy to come out, and you might get more acceptance than you realize, depending on the family and the culture. So we also want to talk about how to safely come out to children. So we get a lot of books like Julian is a Mermaid is an awesome children's book that is affirming to more feminine gender expression. And I have a list of books that you can read to your children all the way from elementary to middle school to high school that support gender non-conforming expression and more feminine gender expression for men, and just show that gender expression is fluid, it's diverse, it's not just these two boxes that we've been told since the early 1900s that we have to fit into, because that's so stifling and it's so suffocating to have to fit yourself into a tiny little box that society tells you that you have to fit into in order to belong or gain societal acceptance. So we look at where, when, and how cross-dressing can be safe in your home, and who you want to come out to, who your safe people are, and building a sense of vulnerability and intimacy with healthy boundaries, and what works for both you and your wife, right? So we want to look at, maybe it's like going to some LGBTQIA plus events, or going to a pride parade, or getting a mentor through a local community or local agency that's been through this too, right? So we look at you as a whole person, sexually, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and help you become more integrated. Because when you've kept a secret your whole life, you can feel so much internalized shame. So we help you overcome shame, give you a safe place to identify it and talk about it and be more of who you are. Because when shame festers and we have unresolved shame, and there's rejection and there's this fear of abandonment, we've been keeping cross-dressing a secret our whole lives, we can actually have co-occurring disorders such as drug addiction, prescription pill addiction, anxiety medication addiction, ADHD medication addiction, pornography addiction, alcoholism, even if it's functional alcoholism, you're just drinking to suppress this side of yourself. We also have addictions like workaholism, infidelity, affairs. The list goes on. Think of unresolved shame and guilt and not being able to be who you are as like you're trying to cope, you're trying to fit in, but you're doing it by suppressing a part of you and numbing and avoiding, and because you can't really be yourself. And so counseling and coaching with our team at Wisdom Within helps you be yourself. It helps you know that like you deserve respect and love. Being a cross-dresser, identifying with a more feminine side, or wanting to use she or her pronouns when you're dressed up and loving dressing up doesn't make you any less of a human. It makes you actually a more fulfilled person. It makes you more, just a stronger being. It makes you who you are, and that's a beautiful, amazing, awesome part of who you are. And we help your wife come to terms with this, with acceptance, with love, and to really kind of broaden our horizons and broaden our knowledge around what gender means and being gender fluid or bigender means. So I would love it if you worked with us. We would love to support you in being your more authentic, full self. And your romantic relation also deserves tools and emotional intimacy skills to thrive. So we'd love to help you every step of the way in embracing and affirming gender diversity, being a safe space to talk about your sexuality and sexual orientation. And if right now you're feeling like cross-dressing poses a threat to your marriage, or your wife is confusing your cross-dressing for being gay, I would absolutely love to work with you guys in a couples therapy setting. And we can also work with you individually. If you just want a safe place to dress up or show your cross-dressing side or process kind of being both masculine and feminine, and really kind of understanding the difference between being transgender and cross-dressing and kind of how to tell the difference. So I'm Katie Ziskind. I'm a Gottman Level 2 trained marriage specialist. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in multiple states. I'm a certified sex therapy informed professional. And my team and I at Wisdom Within Counseling would love to help create a safe, affirming space for cross-dressing, for gender diversity, for sex-positive conversations, and to help you know that you deserve to feel loved as your authentic self, and your romantic relationship also can have a safe place to talk about these aspects of who you are, your sexuality, sexual orientation, and gender expression. You can head over and book right in my calendar at wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. I hope you guys have a great day.